Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast series powered by citiesabc.com and openbusinesscouncil.org in partnership with fashionabc.org. Once again, we are here to profile the visionaries, the founders, and the people changing the way we see the world, the narratives, the visions, and especially how we deal with each other in society, in business, in technology, and in cities and in countries. And one of the things we've been doing in this, I think, close to 250 interviews we've been doing in the last 2 years is profiling people we admire, projects that are changing our cities, our world, but especially the people that have, they're doing the hard work. It's not easy, but as well, there's fantastic things that come out of this. So that takes me to the interview of today. So today I welcome to our series Emmanuel Fenet, that is the CEO of Paris Blockchain Week. So Emmanuel is a person that cannot be described with 2 lines. It has a fantastic CV and trajectory. So he is a thought leader and events manager that has been organizing content-focused international events like conference and summits. And he has more than 2 decades of experience in successful managing of events for Les Échos and the Wall Street Journal Europe. And as well as been always looking at crossover between economy, financial, legal, and technology topics. He is the CEO of Chain of Events, a French organization and a group international that is an event organizer specializing in conference and trade events for professional and especially in the blockchain universe. The company was originally founded to organize the Paris Blockchain Week Summit and the Paris NFT Day. With the Paris Blockchain Week Summit, he created one of the biggest blockchain events worldwide. And I think the reputation of the event and as well the participation of the industry has been exceptional and position actually Paris on this area as well as a leading central capital for these areas of blockchain innovation and blockchain different verticals. Emmanuel is currently looking for and after Europe's largest blockchain event, and with a vision that looks at transform it as a global renewed experience and as well a business platform that crossover blockchain and Web 3.0 and all the things related with the crossover that comes out of that. Emmanuel is also the founder of Live Matters, a conglomeration of strong and unique live communication brands in 2014 when it started. Live Matters brought more than 15 brands, including ABG, Spaces, Satisfy and Fi, and Brain Hub, to mention a few, towards the common vision of becoming leading providers of live communication. So to finish, Emmanuel is a graduate from Neoma Business School and the Jesuit University of Madrid. And he held top position in various organizations, including Premier Circle, Option Finance, and Leaders League. And I could go for more, but I think this gives a bit of an overview of his fantastic profile and achievements. Welcome to our series, Emmanuel.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing, so I'm really happy to be answering this interview.
No, pleasure is mine. I think one of the things I know is doing events is not easy, and creating something the scale that you've been doing is really something that you have to respect, but as well participate and always cheer and celebrate. So, Emmanuel, tell us a bit about you. So you are a really a personality that has been doing a lot of things, both entrepreneurial, but as well as a thought leader and as a person driving industry and driving things. So a bit of your background, where did you started? And for people that never heard about you or they heard a bit, but a bit more of your basis.
Of course, thanks for asking. So it's very simple. 25 years ago, when I got my first job, I landed just after my studies in Madrid at a French newspaper. It was Les Échos. It's like the French Financial Times. And the only job they had for me was in the events department. So that's what I've been doing for the first time. They use the paper's reach and influence to gather thought leaders and to organize nationwide conferences and business conferences. And I've done that ever since. I never managed to get out of it. So I've done this throughout all my career. On topics like, of course, finance, on all the aspects of the law like mergers and acquisition, intellectual property, and also innovation. And more recently, of course, the blockchain and Web3 space.
Fantastic. So a bit of your education, and for instance, you mentioned you start in a financial newspaper, and actually you went through a job that became your life. And since then, you, of course, you create a fantastic track record of a lot of different things that touch some of the biggest events in the world in the areas of finance, technology, and business. But how was that trajectory? And probably some kind of facts or at least case studies that you have during that story.
Of course, I got hooked at the very beginning because events, it's putting people together. It's network. Of course, it's a lot of hard work. And it's a behind-the-scene work, but in the end, it's all just as you were saying in your introduction. It's all about people and putting people together, people that have a way of thinking that is worth putting forward and listening to. So that is a very rewarding aspect. So that's a bit selfish of me to be doing this. And it gives you also access because being on the backstage of these big events and these big minds and putting this all together give you an insight into some very advanced topics and of course the main leaders of these industries. And what is good is that through some technical knowledge of event management, we get to some real human and academic knowledge and business knowledge. So that's what is really challenging.
Fantastic. So, and from the events you've been creating, there's really big events. Do you want to talk about the story of any of them in particular before we go to the Paris Blockchain Week?
I think one of the most of the biggest anecdote is about IP, because when we look at intellectual property, that's something that really strikes me as covering every aspect of the business. It starts with the startups. When you want to start a business, you have to have your IP, you have to have your trademarks. You also have, when your business is growing and you want to establish a market and have international reach. And of course, it all goes with innovation and technology. So for me to have been able to look into the matter through one of the biggest events on IP was really a discovery and something I've absolutely loved doing.
Fantastic. So let's go to the Paris Blockchain Week. So you created the Paris Blockchain Week, and it became really one of the biggest blockchain events in the world. And I know that it's quite difficult to build what you did, especially there's a huge competition both from Asia, Middle East, and US. But it's been really, of course, Paris is Paris, but it's not easy as well because France has the good and the challenge. But a bit of that history, how did you create? And let's go then through some highlights in history.
So first of all, just to clarify, I didn't create Paris Blockchain Week. So some founders did, and they so there are people from the space who have their own companies. And when they decided that the event was supposed to go on a bigger scale, that's where they contacted me, and then I took over to make it more international and much bigger. So that was quite a fascinating challenge because the people, the founders of the event, did it in the early stages of blockchain. So we are only talking about 5 years ago, but it's ancient history for the blockchain space, and because they were already in that space early enough, they got to meet all the original founders, the founders of Binance, the founders of Coinbase, the founders of all the big platform and the big crypto companies. So that was one of the changes that we've had apart from Paris, and we're going to talk about the Paris ecosystem. But that the early original blockchain platform founders were part of the events from the beginning, because at the time there were no international event on blockchain technology.
So like you said, so 5 years in blockchain history is quite a big thing, and of course we are in a very strange year because we had everything happening potential this year, but at the same time it makes the industry stronger because, like you said, in one end you have blockchain technology companies, in one end we have the cryptos, in one end we have of course all the ecosystem, and now we have Web3, NFTs, and a lot of different things. So from these 5 years of trajectory, and then, like you said, you pick something and you make it big. So I was that part of, first of all, capitalizing on people and making sure the event was unique, but as well looking at these trends and keeping the momentum. And as well, you guys gave it a big institutional weight, which I think it's really important because there's a lot of events that don't have the institutional weight that you guys have. Just the fact that the locations that you guys managed to have and all of this talks about the capacity of organization, but as well the ambition of putting that in the map, which I know that is not easy. I think probably the exception of Miami and a bit Dubai. I think the only cities in the world that we have kind of similar results. So a bit of that history and as well the organization and how you've been working with the different players, especially the Paris players and international players.
It's a kind of a story where one of every aspect that you've mentioned is feeding one another. Because when in 2018 they started, for example, that was at Paris Blockchain Week, the very first edition, which was already something like 1,500 people from the first inception. That's where, for example, the people of Binance first met with the French government. It was in one of the rooms at the Paris Blockchain Week Summit. And now you can see a few years later, Binance has elected Paris as their European headquarters with over 100 million euros investment in all the startup ecosystem here in France. So that's part of it. So the government has been wise enough to be welcoming, and the crypto players, they also took this kind of chance, and we already had in France so another, because it's not only one ingredient for success, it's always a mix of different aspects. And another one aspect was the quality of education, and in particular of engineering and development and coding and all the creativity in tech that we have in France, with a very excellent academic environment, with engineering schools that are amongst the best in the world. So that was also an aspect that made that these players could find their future developers, could find a relationship with some universities, and it's very important when we want to have a startup ecosystem. So that was the beginning, the ingredients of the beginning, and then we were lucky enough that these very original players became big players in the industry, because if Binance or if Crypto.com or if Ledger had not become such big companies, as they actually did, and they were part of our story as well.
Yeah, that's really, you just mentioned a lot of very big things that happened during your tenure, and as well during the growth of the Paris Blockchain Week. And then, like you said before, 5 years in blockchain is like 100 years in a lot of other technology. But blockchain has I think, a unique spot to gather the passion and the love and hate like very few technologies in history, probably because of crypto, but as well because blockchain is something very enigmatic that everyone looks in one end that wants to be involved, but in one end is kind of afraid, but you want to be part of it. So I think just I would like to touch this because I know that there's a lot of myths, and especially right now that we are in a crazy year, because in one end we have fantastic developments, but at the same time we have, of course, a lot of crashes. Let's look at just some of, if you want to highlight some of the ups and downs that you, I don't know, at least one of the ups and one of the downs that you went through, because I think this is important to demystify for people listening to us, and how important the work of organization like yours to, first of all, to promote the technology entrepreneurs, but as well to explain the myths, because there's too much myths, especially around blockchain and crypto.
Sure, we'll try to do this. But yeah, we've been at the heart of it, and it's been a roller coaster of a year, because just over a year ago, so we were really on the peak. And if you want to talk about the high, so the high was really NFTs. If you just travel back 14 months ago, the only word out there, it was really a buzzword for a lot of people. But the NFT brought the blockchain to the general public interest. Because it was an application that people could own or could play with or could see what it would look like, whether they like it or not. But it brought the blockchain into the spotlight, and it was really a chance and a high, because before, as you say, blockchain is kind of an obscure technology. It's kind of geeky to understand. And here we had an application. Which are NFTs that came into the light, and you combine this with a Bitcoin close to $60,000. So it was really a kind of high fever period where it was a pure development and at a very high speed. And of course, we believe that. And of course, after that, we've seen the year and the first crash with the Luna, with the Luna crash last May. It was the first thing, and then the FTX one in November. And we've entered what people call the crypto winter. So if you have a little bit of experience, some people will remember the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. If you're a bit older, you remember the digital bubble from the 2002. But in the crypto industry, these people had never seen something go down like this. And it was really, the whole ecosystem has really been shaken by these crashes. So we've had last November, for example, after the FTX collapse, some people, everybody froze, not knowing if they were going to be still there, or if the company's finance would still be there between one week to another, or one day to another. And after that short observation period, people started to see, okay, there are some consequences, but it's not the technology that is at fault. It's really the use that some people have made, and people have made the same mistake that you could have made with other technologies. And so in this kind of down period, but it's a very good reality check, because you ask yourself if you're in it just for the speculation, or just for the hype of it, or if it's something that you really believe in, and if the technology is secure enough, sure enough, and it brings people to ask themselves the right questions. And the right questions are, what are we building? Are we building the next version of the web, or are we building a new speculation system or bubble? And because there is no money to be made at short term, on the short term right now, at least with the crypto rates, then the people that are still in it are the people who are here for the long term. People who have invested, who have raised some funds, and who have real projects. And that's what we're trying to do with Paris Blockchain Week, is to give these people a voice, a platform, to explain what they are doing, what is the technologies they believe in, what is the angle they are taking on this, what are the lessons that they can already draw from a few years in crypto. And this with different minds and different thought leaders. I think that's what's interesting in this next edition.
No, and it's really impressive. So the next edition, definitely, first of all, you have a fantastic program that crosses between blockchain, Web3, and as well a lot of different things. And you have I mentioned already Google, but you have some fantastic things. So let's go through the program, because you have, and even for the way the program is built. So you have the Paris Blockchain Week Summit.
Yeah.
You have the week. So you have 5 events or 6. So if you can give a bit overview.
So it's all about the ecosystem that we want to cater for, and help get strong and solid. So the initial event was the Blockchain Summit. It was the event that was founded by the initial founders, and it's an event by the pros for the pros. We talked about the OGs, and this event is really about blockchain technology, the big trends, what we can build on it, and even though we are talking now to the big corporations about blockchain, the one interested in the Blockchain Summit are the one that are looking at the technology to solve industrial problems, or to solve real industrial issues, like I want to make my supply chain more secure. I want to have a crypto payment on an e-commerce site. I want to have more traceability, or they're using the blockchain for the technology itself. Last year we added, like you mentioned in your introduction, we added Paris NFT Day, just because well, NFTs were an angle in the blockchain that was really taking over everything, and we needed to address it. But we've come to the conclusion that NFTs was a very small word for the revolution. It was we were talking when we were talking NFTs. And the real revolution is Web3. It's the next version of the web and of our digital interaction. And NFT is just a way into it. It's just an instrument. It's just one technology inside everything that Web3 has to provide. So that's why the NFT event is becoming the Web3 experience. And this event, it's also for all the users and corporate users. And we're a B2B event. We are not a general public event. But the corporations that would be interested in the Web3 experience are there to find out how this technology is going to change interactions, how it's going to change their customers, how it's going to change the way commerce is done, the way people relate to their products, and of course, so it's more of for people in corporations, it's more for people from strategy or from marketing. And this is why it's Web3 experience. It's more the interface. We don't look at the inside technology. We look at what it can provide as an interface for you and me, and for the corporation and their customers. So these are the two main events. But we decided it was not. We decided it was not only what this ecosystem needed. Because what we've seen, and we've seen it last year when it was peaking, one of the biggest problem was talents and recruiting talents. And we see it now also even in the crypto winter, where talent is still an issue. Recruitment is no longer an issue, but managing talent is still an issue, because if you want to build Web3, then there are some jobs that don't exist, that we still have to invent, that are not here yet. So it means there are some skills that people need to acquire. It means that there are some schools that need to design training. There are some people who need to shift their competencies and their skills. So all these aspects are a critical aspect into the Web3 building. So that's why we have a talent fair and a talent day where we address all these issues. If you are a large corporation, whether it's an automotive corporation or a luxury brand or something, if you want to recruit a Web3 team, what kind of profile do you look for? Because it doesn't exist. What kind of school do you want them to come from? What kind of experience do you want them to have? So we create this debate, of course, and it's always between peers, because it's between the companies that are living it and doing it. People exchange between themselves. So that's a talent fair. So that's another event during the week. And for these for this job to be created, we need, of course, companies. We need startups that are going to create these new jobs. And if we need startups, these startups need to be spotted. They need to be funded. So that's why we have a special Investors Day and the startup competition, where we're going to have the mapping of the ecosystem through the startups that are trying to build something on Web3. So that means on Investors Day and the startup competition, which are still part of the week. And another important event, which we've had also last year, is a hackathon, because of course blockchain is still taking on the new challenges and building new solutions on the different protocols and on the different blockchains. So that's another event for developers. And so these are all the content events. And of course, because it's a week and it's something, it's festive, and especially now people really need to have a break and to cheer one another. There are also some parties and some events during that week. So we are catering for all this during just 1 week.
Yeah, it's quite an impressive, because there's 10,000 people, 400 plus speakers, and a lot of things that you get here. So let's touch one thing that I would like to. So France has been having a huge institutional support as well by the event, but this event, probably you have a lot of mainstream names, because you have Google coming. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but you have as well a lot of other things. So from the bridge between blockchain and Web3. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's I love that question, and especially if you look at last year. So last year it was still the biggest event of the year, 6,000 people, but we had only people from decentralization and from the blockchain space, or what we call Web3. Okay, that was only what we were taking on. And because of the hype, the ideal of Web3 was there, with people that were only living in that space. So now you've mentioned, for example, this year we have Google, but we're going to also have Amazon. We have Meta as well. So these are huge players from the Web2 revolution. And if the market hadn't been the way it is, I don't even think we would have gone and look for these people. And I don't think these people would have been interested as well. So what I take from this, it's an interesting take, actually, because if we look at decentralization alone and the decentralized actors, we're not going to name them, but we are looking at, I don't know, in terms of adoption, the potential might be, I don't know, 80 million, 100 million wallets in total, if they all do their job and push for adoption. If we have the big players from Web2, like Google or Meta, that are trying to drive adoption onto the blockchain, or if Meta wants to create a wallet, then it's 2 billion people that are onboarded very, very shortly. So it's not anymore the ideal of pure decentralization that people might have, but I think that the decentralized player can still benefit from that. And I think that the Google and the Meta and the Amazon people are wise enough to understand. They have the wisdom to understand how to onboard the general public and to leave some space for the new players, for the decentralized players, to build on the platform that they're helping to provide.
So and from you touched a very important thing. So in the end of the day, when you touch about blockchain, and for people like you and me, we are completely into this. You look at centralized, decentralized, but this is becoming very hybrid, because in the end of the day, if you look at some of the biggest investors in blockchain technology are precisely the Googles, the Microsofts, and all the other players. So I would like to touch that area, because of course there's the myth of centralized, decentralized, which you can go for hours, especially if you talk with crypto, more radical, but I think you and me are a bit more moderate. But I think the thing here is how we bridge this technology, because in the end of the day, blockchain technology like you said, it's creating a lot of new jobs, it's creating a lot of new opportunities, and is actually creating identity for the supply chain, for the economy, and all of the different things. So from the iterations, and especially from last year and from this year, you have the talent, you have the investors, and you have big players and institutional players and the more crypto blockchain players that we are right now in the winter, let's put it that way. Although you never know, in 1 month or two, it might be different. So how do you see these three worlds?
Well, you just introduced the institutional one, and maybe we can talk about regulation on this topic. But yeah, the big players right now, they're really the ones who can take it forward because they have the bandwidth, they have the money for the investment, and they have the reach, which means they already have the customers that they will need to educate and to onboard. But they have this capacity. So if they do it wisely, and I believe that they are doing it, because as you mentioned, Google is here, but Google is going to be a partner of the startup competition. So you see, they are looking after the ecosystem. And not coming here as a sponsor trying to replace all the exchanges and the decentralized player. And if this is successful, then that will bring the technology. It will bring it mainstream. And once it's mainstream, all the players who have this ideal of giving the power back to the people, of creating a decentralized application for you to manage your own finance, but also your own identity, your own way of doing business, or to interact with people, or your own piece of the internet, and your personalized experience. I think they will be able to build much quicker because the users will already be there and kind of onboarded. Because right now they have a double task, which is of course create the technology. But if you look at the metaverses that exist, so the technology is here, it's starting up, but it's very hard to find people to get there. If you start with having something maybe simpler, but with a lot of people, then you can get to build metaverses that are more specialized, that have each one its own specialty. But if you come just with if you start with a specialty, it's very hard to get to mass adoption quickly.
Yeah, and I think I would like to touch. I know that we are getting close to but still have some time. So one of the questions that I would like to touch. I know that Europe right now is going through a very pressing moment of crypto regulation, and as well the UK and Europe in particular. I think this month, next couple of weeks. So that means in March you're going to have a new regulation for Europe. Are you going to touch that in the conference, or it's something that you want to talk about it? Because I know that is a big thing, especially for the industry.
Absolutely, that's been always one of the big topics, because what you want, especially when you have new technology, you want visibility, and if you want to bring in some money and some investors' money, you can't have a regulation risk, because if the technology you invest in is regulated in a way that it's going to be damageable to your business plan, then it's a risk an investor cannot take. So regulation, I would say it doesn't really matter whether it's a hard take or it's something that really understand the way the ecosystem works. I think it needs to be readable and predictable, because then if the rules are here, or you can see which are the rules that are coming, then you can take some steps. You can build with it. You can build around it. But that is the main thing, and that's what's good with what happened in the recent month, is that the regulators now feel that they have no other option than to take action. So maybe their first reflex is not the right one, because it's just to clamp down every risky technology or services that people might want to provide. But at least we don't have to wonder, is it going to be, if I invest in that company or if I take this stand on technology, is it going to change in a few months when the regulation is coming up? So that's the first thing. And of course, this kind of blockchain summit, because of the reach, because of the influence that it has, and because there are some regulators for many countries who come and discuss, we aim to at least have the ecosystem's voice heard, because that's been always been the problem with regulation. It's sometimes regulators don't have the feedback from the real users and from the real people behind the technology. They only see the legal aspect and the risk aspect. So we hope that we are playing a role on this topic.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big thing, and I think especially this month and the next 2 months, I think are going to be very big on this area. So to wrap up in terms of the event, so from the main event, what would be the highlights for people looking to go to Blockchain Week? And of course, you don't need to get too much. I know that you have a great venue. So what would be the highlights that you want to push to our audience?
Let's talk about the venue for a minute. So it's going to be at the Louvre. There's a conference center right inside the Museum of the Louvre in Paris, which is the biggest museum in the world. And that's a great story to tell, because last year we were in the historic Paris Stock Exchange. So it was like the new finance, DeFi, taking over the traditional finance. And this time with the Louvre, we can see that the Web3 economy will rely very much on not just on technology, but also on creation. And being in the Louvre, it really shows that we're here for the long run. And we hope that in 500 years, we'll still have a museum, but this museum will include digital art and artists that have built that have created on the blockchain. So that's for the location. It's right at the heart of Paris, and it's quite a challenge because we are going to be the biggest event ever hosted there. It's not usually a place for convention like this, but we're gonna make it happen. If you ask about the take that people can expect from the summit, so we've just talked about regulation. I think that's going to be one of the strong aspects. Of course, the crashes from last year, the FTX crash, the Luna crash, are going to be a very hot topic of discussion in terms of what are the consequences, but what can we do to avoid this kind of situation in the beginning, because it's a bad situation for everybody. Even though you've never done the wrong thing in your life, because you're in crypto, you get this kind of bad association. And we see how the companies have already reacted with the transparency of their reserve, of the way they handle funds, and so on. Metaverse, of course, is going to be a very hotly debated topic, because major brands are starting investing in it. So it's one of the topic. And finally, art is going to be at the center, because we were in this place, the Carousel du Louvre, and we're going to have some panels and some exhibition related to fine art that we'll be able to announce very soon.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Just the fact that you have an event in Louvre, it's amazing to say less, because it's one of the most iconic places in the planet, and besides being the biggest museum as well on the planet. So I think just that as an experience, you cannot have something better than that. So I want to touch one thing. So France is of course one of the drivers of the European Union, being an event, that the biggest event in blockchain in France and one of the biggest in the world. Have you managed to create any kind of positive lobbying and as well alignment with the French government, and as well bring the European Union closer to understand better what is happening in blockchain? Because it's obvious that at the moment Europe is in and out, and in the end of the day, if you're out of the global economy for the next 50 years, and which puts Europe in a bad way. And me being an Europeist, I always try to think, how can we make Europe more innovative?
So for this, we are, of course, we're playing the French card because we're a French company and hosting it there, and France, the government, and we've had a little bit of luck with some stability over the past years with the re-election of the same president and the same kind of economic policy. And these are the people that are really pushed for France as a blockchain nation. So they've created the background, the framework for people to strive and for the likes of Binance to be welcome in France, like Crypto.com also has established its European headquarters and invested 150 million euros in the French economic startup tissue framework. So being part of the French startup / blockchain nation is one way of having this influence in Europe. But we also partner with other European events that are active in blockchain in Germany or in the Netherlands or in the UK. And of course, at the event, we welcome. We've got people from the European Commission. We've got members of the European Parliament who are going to speak and attend. And it's not just one way. It's not always they come and speak and deliver a speech. But we have a lot of meeting rooms, and we even organize regulatory meetings for people who want to discuss this topic behind the closed door to understand and ask questions in a more extensive way.
And do you think, sorry, I want to press this because I'm particularly interested as well, because one of the challenges I've been finding, and I know that we're closing the time, the challenge that I found is that people really don't understand blockchain. And when I say people, I say our governments. And sometimes they want to go on the hype, like you said, on the waves. And I don't want to make this political. It's not about politics. It's just about education. And I think an event like yours is highly educational and highly about creating attention. You just mentioned Binance put $200 million in the French economy. That's a substantial number. And at the same time, Binance it's a player that is kind of a global octopus that you never know where it goes, but it's as well one of the biggest trading platforms, probably the biggest trading platform in the world at the moment. So how do you, from your experience, and I know that you do a lot of different events and you come from a financial background, how can we actually create more awareness in the positive level? Because the challenge I've been finding is this positive level, especially when it comes to governments and institutions, because very easily they pass from an extreme to the other.
Okay. Well, for me, there are two main drivers. One of them is the use case. You probably have heard, and you will see at some conferences. For example, Finland, the government has worked on digital identity and tried to build a new system based on the blockchain. So I've been at French government events where they look at what's happening all over the world in terms of digital identity, because that's one of the topics. Also for healthcare, because if you have all your health information on the blockchain, then it's accessible in a far better and a far trustworthy way than it is right now on an information system that has its ups and downs. So government are slowly seeing the benefits of blockchain just for its main use cases, let's say. And the second driver to me is business, because it's not just crypto, because crypto means another currency, and it's for them it's just not possible to have a currency that's not regulated by a central bank. So okay, so let's leave that on one side, and it's not the way that we can talk about blockchain to them. But when we are talking about businesses, which mean job creation, companies that are building real business models because of this technology, companies from the mainstream business era that are investing as well and recruiting people, and that you see more and more of the economic power of this sector, then they just cannot ignore it. And that's the two best way I see for onboarding the government.
And it's a key element for us, and I think that's the way to go. So I want to repeat for people listening to us, and we're going to put a lot of information about this. So Emmanuel, it's been a pleasure. I know that we finished the time. There's a lot of more questions, but I think we might get a small one closer to the event. The event for people listening to us is on the 20th to 24th of March 2023. So it's still at the moment we're doing it a bit before the event. But first of all, I want to thank you for the time and the opportunity as well. There's a lot of things here. Congratulations as well for the excellent program. Any last things, and as well where people can find information, the tickets, and I know that there's a lot of sponsors, a lot of investors. Any last things you want to highlight for our audience about the event?
Of course, but there's one website, it's parisblockchainweek.com. And the one thing I would like to point, especially in this time, is the startup competition, because we already have, I think it's 600 now, startup inside this competition, but it's still time to apply, and it's a great way for you to get insight on your business model, on your take on the technology, by people who are really doing this every day and who will be able to give you some feedback. So if that's just one thing, I think that's an important point.
Yeah, so that is so that's for people listening to us, and I want to highlight that. I thought it was closed already, so I appreciate that, because you have quite a lot of checking your social media places. You have actually a huge number of competitions. So can you just tell a bit more, if you can, just how to participate? So I think this is the start in the block, starting block.
Of course. So for the startup competition, so it's sponsored by.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to. There are only two criteria. You need to be under 3 years of existence and have raised less than 3 million. So those are the two criteria. So you can apply online, load your deck, and you get a chance, of course, to come to Paris Blockchain Week and so on. But you also, there are a lot of grants. There are money grants, there are investment grants. You have Google, who's going to give you a lot of credits for your development and your commercial development. You've got lawyers who are going to give you a free legal counsel and advice. So just have a look at the website, and you'll see there's a lot of value proposed to the startups.
No, fantastic. This is amazing. And we're going to put all of this listed here. Of course, there's much more. I think it's really impressive. There's from, I would say, millions of dollars in credits, and of course, having access to the likes of Tim Draper, Google Cloud, Trust Wallet, Binance, Meta, and so forth. So it's really an impressive list of things for startups all over the world that want to compete. So any last words for our audience, Emmanuel? I know there's a lot of stuff. I want to be respectful to your time.
Paris is always a good idea. You know, it's a line from the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. So we'd love to welcome you in Paris on next March.
And in a great location, Louvre. Actually, it's probably the best way to go to Louvre. Okay, well, Emmanuel, thank you so much. Congratulations for all this, and to your team and to everyone involved. It's a great endeavor and a great challenge and opportunity. So well done, and we'll be continuing promoting and talking about this, and hopefully other things about the Paris Blockchain Week and all the different initiatives you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dinis.